Welcome back to another Season Pass pregame show. I'm Connor Fuxa.
I'm Brandon McVay.
And I'm Bronwyn Liber.
Now let's get straight into last week's recap where we took on McKinney in a game that had some big playoff implications. Our team probably could not have got out to a better start. We have those 2 onside kicks, scored 10 unanswered points, and on the first drive of the game, we hold Brian Jackson on a big fourth down. In the first quarter, it looked great, 10-0. Second quarter, though, is when McKinney started rolling. It's hard to stop Brian Jackson for long. That running back, he is an amazing talent. He's going to play D1. He's going to do great things. We could not slow him down in the second quarter, go up 21-10. But Bronwyn, can you tell me about the second half of this game?
Yeah, of course. I mean, going into the half, score being 21-10, we still thought the Blue Hawks had a solid chance. It was a tight game. It was anyone's game, honestly. But unfortunately, coming out of that halftime in that third quarter, we saw player Victor Chuanuma get injured and was out for the rest of the game. And then from there, just our defense got tired and they managed to go down 42-10.
Yeah, injuries are really killing this team right now. We saw Keone Morrison go down in that Prosper game. Now Victor Chuanuma. This offense is looking for some people to step up. We've seen Matt do it every week. Matt, week in, week out, is putting up big numbers, but we need someone else to help out Kevin on that offense. But
and then the big thing about the defense getting tired and giving a lot of points is we saw our offense struggle in that second half a lot, getting a lot of 3-and-outs. The defense was consistently on the field, and you can't stop that high-powered offense when you're tired and you can't push through it.
And I mean, we talk about it every week. It's turnovers. Turnovers are a big thing in a game, especially in a game like this where we needed some momentum to go our way. We needed something in that second half to get something going. Losing the turnover battle 2-0 did not help our offense or our defense as well. But now I think we got to move forward. Look at this game. We're going to be playing tonight against McKinney Boyd. They're 1-7 on the year. They haven't done amazing so far, but they did get their first win of the season last week when they took on Little Elm in a big, like a shootout game. I don't think a game anyone expected to be that high scoring. I think people expected to go into the game maybe a little bit of more boring game, see like something like 21-0 like our game against Little Elm. Yeah. But we see 55-46 and over 1,000 yards put up in this game.
Insane.
Not expecting that. But I think we need to talk about McKinney Boyd's defense. They have not looked great all year. Against similar matchups where we faced off against, they've given up more points to McKinney, more points to Allen, same amount of points to Prosper, and more points to Lillum. How can this offense attack that defense?
I think that's the big thing going into this game. As you talked about the Little Elm game, we can say we weren't expecting that many points, but both defenses, both Little Elm's and McKinney Boyd's defense showed they aren't the strongest. So I think it's going to be a little hard this week, again, with the offense banged up with, again, Keone out for the season, and now Victor, who's potentially out for the season. I think it's more of going to be who can solely move the ball down the field, have long drives, and get the ball down the field and get in the end zone.
But going off of what Connor said, well, Boyd has proven that they've put more points up against the teams we faced off of. They've also allowed more points, which is going off like what Brandon said on the defense. We've seen those higher scoring games, like the Little Boyd game that was so much higher than anyone expected versus our games that were, usually below 30 and all that. So it will definitely come down to a game of picking it up and holding each other to each other's weaknesses.
I think it's a big thing going off what Brandon said. I talked to some of the offense players before last week's game against McKinney, and they were talking about how the game plan going into that game was going to be slow, long drives, because McKinney loves to do the same thing. And if we have quick 3-and-outs on the offensive end, it's going to tire our defense because McKinney's going to have those 8, 10-play drives where they just run it over you nonstop, and the defense gets tired. They're going to make mistakes. But our offense couldn't pull that out. With the injury to Victor in the second half, it just seemed like it was 3-and-outs or quick possessions, and our defense just got tired out there. Honestly, the 42 points put up on the board does not show how great our defense played. Our defense has stepped up this year big time, and they were doing great until in the end of the game they just got tired.
I think a big thing is time of possession. We've seen our offense this year, they're not going to go, yes, they have the opportunity to go make big plays, but that's not the offense they are. Whenever they are in their groove, it is slow drives that are running down the clock, that give them that time of possession, that makes the defense be more energized and have energy to go out there and make the tackles and keep playing the whole game.
And I mean, we've talked about the star power of that McKinney game that really, our defense did a great job slowing down Brian Jackson and Keldrick Luster. But the big names we got looking tonight on McKinney Boyd's offense. They've got quarterback Ryan Shackleton. He can do it both with his arm and with his legs. In that game against Little Elm, that big game this past Friday, he had over 300 yards passing, 5 passing touchdowns, and almost 100 yards rushing with a rushing touchdown. So he's another dual threat quarterback, which our defense has struggled to kind of keep them in contained. But last week we saw them do well against Luster. So I think this is a big moving point for this defense to step up. But I think we've talked a lot about our defense, their offense. We got to talk about our offense. We talked about how they've been injured. We've talked about how Matt has been honestly just going off, doing great this season. But I think if we're going to look at anything tonight, do we think our offense can put 21 points on the board?
That is a little shaky. I think they do. I think Matt steps up. He just got the offer from Boise State that I saw. And I think him and Kevin do step up. And some other people are going to step up too, such as Maurice Gray, who got the carries at once Victor Chinuma got hurt. He's going to have to step up too and take some of those carries off of Kevin's arm. And then also people like Brody and Amar are also going to have to step up. So I think we do squeak past 21 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can score 21 as well. I know we haven't hit that prop recently. We haven't seen our offense go over 21 since that homecoming game against Brownsville, which is the first game of districts. But we should have got over that in Little Elm. Let's be honest. If it wasn't 21-0 and we weren't just slowing down the clock and trying to get to the end of the game, we would have put up more than 21 against Little Elm. And I still believe if it weren't for the big shift, losing Victor Chinuma, we could have put up 21 last week. Now we've had a week to game plan with Maurice to see what this offense can do, and I think we will get over 21 this week.
I have to agree. I think we're going to get over 21. Well, I think it's going to be close. I think we also have to talk about the fact that Brandon was talking about how they're going to be taking the ball off of Kevin. Matt's going to show up, and then we have all these other names who have had the week to game plan and step up and figure out a game plan. I think Kevin's really going to look to run the ball as well. Like, as we talked about, Boyd's defense is not the strongest, and they're really going to look to take that to heart and put it in the end zone.
Yeah, but now I think every single week we do that MVP player, but I think at this point in the season we know it's going to be a guy like Kevin Sperry, like Matt Wagner, especially on senior night, and then Jonah Bowman as well. I think this week we switched up. I think we go for an underrated player on our offense or defense that needs to specifically step up in this game if we want to get a win on senior night.
Now I'm going to go with someone who, now I can't really say underrated anymore after he did get MVP last game against McKinney. I'm going to go with AJ Hickey. He's someone who stepped up, especially going later on to the season. He has been coming off the edge, and we saw him get, I think, 4 tackles for a loss. So I think he has really stepped up, and he continues to do that against McKinney Boyd and takes advantage of that offense and the opportunities he gets.
Yeah, Hickey did a great job last week getting into the backfield. He also got a sack last week against McKinney, which is a hard thing to do against Keldrick Luster, who loves to run away. But I think I'm going to stick with you on the defense side of the ball. I think we've talked a lot about how our defense is going to step up. And again, I don't know if we can 100% call him underrated after the game where he had 3 interceptions, but I'm going to have to go with Nick Butler. He had 3 interceptions 2 weeks ago, and he has really just stepped up, both on defense, but then also in kick and punt returns. We've seen him return. He had a huge return this past week against McKinney that got us past the 50, which is a great thing when we're talking about getting this offense going. If we can get those big returns to where we can get past the midfield line to start our possession, we're going to put more points on the board. So I think I'm going to have to go with Nick Butler.
Both extremely good choices. And honestly, I'm going to have to pick a defensive and kind of offensive player. I'm going with Brody Woods, a young sophomore who stepped up on varsity, didn't come out of the season as a starter, but has gained his way playing multiple positions, just kind of being that key player Rock Hill's needed. And I think going into this game, he's really going to have to prove himself with all the injuries we've talked about a lot this episode. He's just going to have to find those little creeks where he can shine and really put up the points.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if our offense can step up, if our defense can keep being the dominant force they've been in the recent weeks. But for now, that's all the time we have for this week's pregame show. I'm Connor Fuxa.
I'm Brandon McVay.
And I'm Bronwyn Liber. Keep rocking Blue Hawks, and thank you again to all of our seniors.